Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 159 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. Today, you're going to be hearing from the cast of Power. That's Joseph Sikora, Rotimi, Naughton, Lela Loren, and Omari Hardwick. And you're also going to hear me talk about what we can do to start making more power moves in our own lives and how we can level up. I want to give you guys some life updates as well as just talk about some behind the scenes stuff that I think you'll find interesting. As always, if you're not following us on social, we are Dreams and Drive across the board. That's Dreams and Drive. And make sure that you're tagging us, you're sharing this episode with others. I really do appreciate it when you do. And make sure you're using the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. If you are not subscribed, make sure that you hit that subscribe button on whatever player you're listening to us right now. That's the best way to get updates when we have new episodes. So I really love you guys to subscribe and just make sure that you're part of the Dreams and Drive community. And the last thing before we get into this episode, remember all the merchandise on the Dreams and Drive shop is on sale. So if you want to get a Dreams and Drive t-shirt, hoodie, or crew neck, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop. And if you use the code DREAMER, you'll get an extra 10% off your order. I really appreciate it. We also have email templates. If you're a podcaster and need some email templates for reaching out to guests, I do have that available. All right, so let's get into this episode. So I want to say about maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go to New York to interview the cast of Power. So if you are an avid listener, a longtime listener of the show, you'll know that this was actually my second year in a row getting to interview the cast of Power. My first time in the Power Rodeo was in episode 91, and I got to speak to the cast there, including Lala. And that was such a dope experience for me. It was my first time doing a roundtable interview. I didn't know what to expect. I went into there thinking that I was going to be on camera, and they were like, no, honey, you are doing a roundtable interview. Get your recorder out. So this year, I kind of hoped that I would get to do an on-camera interview. I'll go in there with my hopes high, but once again, it turned into this being another roundtable interview session. So let me set the stage for you. So a roundtable interview, if you're ever at a press junket, which is what this is called, right? It's basically where a group of journalists will sit in a room and they'll bring in the talent, and then you get the opportunity to ask your questions. But remember, there is a room of, like, let's say there's probably like 6 to 7 other journalists at the table. And so each interview is only about 15 minutes. So you have 15 minutes to get in as many of your questions as you can, but you also have to be conscious of the other interviewers in the room. So, here I was going into, I had my game plan. I had a whole list of questions. And once you get in there, you start studying the energy and you're realizing everybody here wants to ask their question. So the first people that we talked to were Rotimi and Joseph Sikora. That is Dre and Tommy from the show Power. And so I went into it initially thinking, all right, let me ask about power stuff. But the thing in the back of my head was, this is a show about putting your dreams in drive. And I know that my listeners may watch Power, but I don't want to make this show about what's happening in Power because it's just not going to be relevant to my audience and to the majority of my audience. So, here's the first question I ended up, trying to sneak in early with Rotimi and Joseph, and this was about the relationship with Tariq. Thinking about, just in our present day culture and how we are influencing the youth, I feel like both of you each have a really unique relationship to Tariq. What would you say is the biggest shift that changes in that relationship this season?
Tommy treats him like a man now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's earned his respect in certain ways, or maybe it's not. I think that's actually not it. He hasn't earned Tommy's respect. He went a different way to make his bones, to become a man, to have his, what do you call that when you're like, your quinceañera, when you're, the whole thing, when you're rite of passage. So he did his rite of passage in a way that Tommy doesn't respect. Yeah. But he says, for better or for worse, you're a man now. Now I'm gonna treat you like a man.
Yeah, and I think
but he loves him so much.
Yeah, he does. I think Dre views him as a little brother, but at the same time, Dre is a chess player. So if he's a pawn to get to where he needs to get to, he doesn't want that, but it's going to be what it is. But I think the loyalty, he sees that he's a tough kid, because something happens really dope in the first episode, and he sees that he's a tough kid. So I think from that, he'll never forget that, and that might come back and play something.
So then this idea came to me that, maybe I need to be more strategic in my questions. How can I create a story for my listeners? Because this question about Tariq, all right, it's interesting if you watch the show, but what was going to be interesting to my listeners? So here I was, about 5 minutes left in the session, and I'm thinking, all right, Raina, what can I ask? What can I ask? And I thought of a storyline, making power moves, life lessons. Let me ask each character to reflect on the life lessons that playing their characters taught them and what we can get from the show overall and bring back into our own lives. As you know, I think we can find stories anywhere. So, all right. So I was like, let me try to switch to this direction and see how it goes. So I think this was the last question for this session. So I just went in and I said to Tommy and to Dre, as their characters are called, Rotimi and Joseph Sikora, I asked them this question, and this is how I got started on what would eventually be the theme for the rest of the interviews. How do you think that this season will reflect on current culture? Like, what is it that you want people who are watching this season to really feel that they can take back to their own lives? Because I feel like art really does imitate life in some ways.
I think for Dre's character, I think it's bet on yourself in real life. I think put everything into what you believe. Go for it. Don't be afraid of the moment. I think at this point, everyone lives in an insecure place, majority of people, but I think that if we can temper that, then the sky's the limit. And he's legit taking everything because he believes he can. So if we can apply that to our life, then a lot of things will open up for us.
All right, so did you hear those tips? Like, those were just great tips that I think can apply to us as dream drivers. Number one, betting on yourself. How many times have we heard guests in previous interviews talk about how that ability of them betting on themselves really helped push them to the next level? Rotimi also said you have to put everything into what you believe. If you have an idea, if you know that there is something that you're supposed to be doing, you have to take the leap. As episode 20 guest Alori Swank said, jump and build your wings on the way down. That's something that I'll never forget, right? Number 3, he was like, go for it. Don't be afraid of the moment. And then lastly, he said, temper your insecurity. We all have insecurities that drive us, but if we know how to leverage them, if we know how to kind of let them not play as big a role in our lives and not impact our fear and our ability to move forward, there's so much that we can do. And he was like, you have to believe that you can take everything because you believe you can. And that's something else. Like, how much do you actually believe that you are able to do what it is that you see yourself doing? That belief is going to go hand in hand. So I was just so amazed that Rotimi was able to pull this from him playing a fictional character, Dre, on the show. I had his ability to watch episodes 1 and 2, and I really do see the progression of how all this stuff is playing into the character Dre. But these tips were definitely ones that I know I'm going to try to reflect on. And as you watch anything, that's something I really encourage people to do, is even though you're watching fictional things, that's why I believe storytelling is so powerful. There's so much that you can reflect on when you are really soaking in the lessons that these stories are teaching you. Joseph, aka Tommy, didn't get a chance to answer the question. It was the end of the session. We had to move forward. So next in came Lela Loren, aka Angela, and Omari Hardwick, aka Ghost. And the other journalist asked him about the show, but I was like, I have to be strategic. I'm going to wait until the end just because I want them to be in reflected mode, right? Because I want them to be in a reflective mode. They're going to be talking about the present day characters, reflecting about what they're doing on this season. But I wanted them to end with summing up everything for us. And that was also a very strategic move for me. So, when the PR person in there was like, we only have 3 minutes left, last question, I was like, all right, guys, I have a question for you. And here it was. What's the biggest life lesson that you want the audience to take away from this season?
All right, guys, that's the last question. from this season?
That's a good last question.
The life lesson, the big
something
ones?
you want people to feel, to think about their own lives.
Forgiveness.
Life is chaos, be kind.
Say it again. Yeah.
Life is chaos, be kind.
Man, and it's not a kind world anymore. And you know what? For the most part, everybody at this table, we come from an era, for the most part, where we didn't necessarily know how unkind it was. This shit sort of flushed it out. Social media, phone, immediacy, technology. Steve Jobs didn't want all this. Or he did, I don't know. But this kind of... We might not have known how much racism still existed until we had a black president. Who, yes, he's part white, but a black president. We didn't in reality know, to Lela's point, the levels of unkindness until the new social media clad, addictive society that we live in. Part of that society is aided this show in being the second greatest show on cable television. So you take the good with the bad, but I think Lela's right. I mean, really, you want to be kind, man.
Someone said that too, so that's not my quote. I just don't want to show. I remember hearing someone say that and just being like, oh, it's so perfectly said.
You know what? It's funny that Omari first said forgiveness, because I just recently, this past weekend, I was with an old friend of mine and we were talking about, she works at the airport as a TSA agent, and she says whenever she sees older couples, she's always asking them, what's the key to a successful marriage? How are you guys able to stay together for so long? And she said the top thing that most of these couples say is forgiveness. And it's something that I think when it comes to life, when it comes to relationships, this ability to forgive is something that's really important, right? If you want to make power moves in life, there are going to be a lot of people that may cross you, that may do you wrong. But if you have an ability to forgive and move forward, it's helping you be better. I'm thinking about a lot of situations where I had to really struggle with forgiveness, because sometimes it's hard to. It's like, how do you forgive someone who hurt you? How do you say, you know what, I have to move on? But as they say, forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. I love that Lela, aka Angela, said that life is chaos, be kind. This is also interesting to think about in Justice's position to what Dre's responses were, because he's a hustler. He's that go-getter, right? Part of a dream driver, that aspect. But then we have Angela and Ghost, who are figuring out problems, relationships. So the core of their characters, this stuff makes sense. Forgiveness, life is chaos, be kind. I want to definitely encourage all of us, as we're making power moves, to remember that when you gain power, that comes with responsibility. So being fair, being kind, knowing how to forgive yourself and forgive others is going to be essential to your development and your journeying as a dream driver. And I know, Courtney Kemp, who's the creator of Power, probably wasn't thinking about the podcast Dreams and Drive, but I hope you guys are really liking this exercise of how we're able to look at stories and take out the lessons that we can reflect on in our own lives. So lastly, we go to Notori Naughton, aka Tasha, aka the mama. I wanted to ask her this same question. I think her character this season has a very, very pivotal shift that happens. So let's see what she says.
Question.
Sure.
What's the life lesson that you want the audience to feel after watching this season?
The life lesson I want the audience to take away after watching season 5 is choose you. Choose you. Sometimes, specifically for me as a woman, sometimes we put everybody first. And we put, the man first, or even the money first, or, trying to take care of home and family and business. And, we forget to choose you. And at the end of the day, when you start looking at things going awry and you're like, what happened to my life? And now you don't know who you are. You don't know what you want to do with yourself. You don't even know what you like, because your whole identity has been connected to a man. So I think Tasha specifically is struggling with that. Her identity is Ghost's wife. From the beginning, she was like, I'm the wife of the biggest drug dealer in New York City. But who am I without that? What am I going to do without him? I don't know. So choose you. And I would advise people, if you can, try to choose yourself and be selective. you might not end up in the same predicament that I'm in right now as the character. Choose you.
How many of us are choosing ourselves? How many of us right now are taking the time for ourselves and really investing in our self-care and really investing in who we are as individuals? So I love that Notori brought that up, because I think it's something that's really relevant to just present day culture. Sometimes we're in the pursuit of the dream. Sometimes we're helping others pursue their dreams, that we can easily lose ourselves. And I think this is a good segue into this idea of leveling up. This past week, I also had a conversation with my podcast mastermind group, and I'm not going to name who's in the group because we never talked about if we openly talk about who's, this mastermind, but they're definitely podcasters that that you may have heard on my show or not. And we were just talking about how sometimes in this whole podcasting journey, we aren't taking the time for self-care. We may experience burnout. And I talked specifically about how my biggest challenge over this past month has really been asking myself, who am I? What is it that I want to create? And I said to myself, I was inspired by all this new music that was coming out. So, the Beyonce album came out, Kanye and Cudi, Drake recently released an album, Pusha T, Nas, all these people, right? And to me, the thing that I really found inspiring, whether you listen to those albums or not, based upon your own preferences or beliefs or whatever, to me, it was that all these people put out music, right? They were invested in their art. They were invested in being creative. And I told myself, at the end of the day, I'm a storyteller, and podcasts are only one vehicle in which I want to tell stories. And I've been telling podcast stories for the past 2.5 years. I'm not going to stop, but I had to ask myself, who am I? Am I more than this? Are there other types of stories that I want to be creating? And how can I start investing in really letting these other parts of myself out? And I think podcasting, and I know I mentioned this in previous episodes, I don't remember exactly which ones, but to me, podcasting has become what's been so familiar. It's been the thing I know how to do. It's been my comfort zone now, and I'm ready to push myself past this comfort zone because I've made documentaries in the past. I don't know if I've ever posted a link to it. You could probably try to find it if you search on YouTube. I've done poetry. I've written fiction. There's so many other parts of my creative being that I want to start expressing. And so that's really been my goal to myself, because also this past week, a lot of things happened this past week. I had a conversation. I don't want to be specific about it, but basically I'm being pushed out of something that has been very comfortable for me for the past a lot of years. I'm going to have to figure out what's next. I'm kind of am happy that I'm being pushed out this way just because I do need to level up. And that's what I want to end on, is this whole idea of leveling up. It's Q3. It's now July. This episode was released on July 2nd, 2018. And I know when we started this year, we each had goals. We had things that we wanted to work on this year. Leveling up now, whatever my goal was in the beginning of the year, I don't even remember, because I don't think I was really focused on it. But for me, it's what am I really doing to take dreams and drive to the next level? And I want you all to think about this too. Whatever your goal is, you need to now take that time to reassess it. And the reason why I'm making my theme leveling up is because I know that I can be doing more. I know that I deserve to be in creating and being true to what my passion is. Because I think a lot of us know when your heart, when you're not supposed to be somewhere, right? A lot of us know if you're going into a job every day and you just aren't being inspired, or if you're, in a situation, you're just not it doesn't feel right. We all know that deep down. I know in order to get to the next level, just like when I started this podcast, I started it because I was tired of not getting results. I had been interviewing people for years, 2 years, whatever, following college. And I was like, you know what? I'm a good interviewer, but if I want to take it to the next level, I'm going to have to invest in this podcasting thing, right? Figure it out and be consistent, because the lack of consistency was what was holding me back. And I got very very dedicated to it. But now it's like, Raina, you got to get dedicated to that act of leveling up, right? Of being assertive, of not being afraid to ask for the money for these ads, not being afraid to charge people, not being afraid to demand what you're worth, right? Because sometimes I felt like a fraud every week coming into these episodes and sharing and talking to these guests and talking to you all about being dream drivers and knowing that there are parts of my life that I had to level up on in other aspects as part of the journey. But I just wanted to be transparent with you all because I think we all struggle with it. So I don't want anyone listening to be like, yo, Raina has all her ish together, because listen, nobody has all their ish together, which is why I also think it's so important for us not to covet what we see other people doing. You can be inspired, you can be reflective, you can put that into your own perspective, but you can't want to be like anybody else because honestly, you don't know what other people are going through, right? There's been people in the past week or two who've talked about things that have happened, and I know in my own circle, I was like, oh my God, wow, I would never have expected that. But why? Why did I say I would never have expected that? But because I believed I knew everything about this person, but I didn't. So I just want to really encourage us all to be really focused on who we are and what we're doing, because that's what's going to help us. Like getting back to being very clear about our goals and where we want to be. And I was so, happy this past weekend. I was able to have a conversation with episode 156 guest Kristen Carter. And I know in that episode, if you didn't listen to it, she talked about having an action plan. And we really went in and talked about like, Raina, what do you want to do? What are the next steps? What do you have to take? And just being able to talk with her about this stuff and just how my past week has been was so good. And I want to just encourage anybody, like if you feel like you're stagnant, if you feel like you want to level up but you aren't sure, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody and say, I need some help. And sometimes people may want to help you. And if people want to help you, like I didn't necessarily reach out to Kristen. She said, hey, I would love to do this for you. Let's get on a call. And I said, yes. I could have easily said, no, I got it together. No, I didn't say that. I let her help me. And a lot of times there are people in our lives who want to help us, but we're pushing them away because we think we know it all. And we don't. And that help, I know just that 1 hour long conversation really, really has helped me really focus on this leveling up. And I told her that was my theme. And sometimes you got to tell people what your theme is and what your goals are. And I want to just end on this note of, I actually got this from a Kendrick Lamar Vanity Fair recent cover interview that he did. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he talked about how execution and discipline are his favorite words. Execution and discipline. And if you read this article, y'all, if y'all read this article, you will see that Kendrick Lamar is I don't want to say musical genius, but I want to say he is heavily invested in his craft. And that's something that a lot of us probably can all be better at. Like, how invested are we in our craft? Are we learning everything we can learn to be the best us, to really be the best at whatever it is we say we want to do? Because in that whole leveling up, right? In the whole leveling up, making power moves, you have to be invested. Even thinking about the people that I had interviewed from the cast of Power, all of them at some point, you weren't able to hear the other parts of the interviews that they did with the other journalists, because I don't think it would be ethical for me to post their questions in this. I don't really know how that works, but it was so inspiring for me to just hear them become and talk so much about their characters as if they were real people. That means the investment that they have in those characters is so real. And that amount of passion that was in the room inspired me so much. I really feel like I've been rambling this episode, but it's really been on my mind to just tell you guys that I'm personally working on letting other parts of my creative self come out. So you'll probably be seeing different types of projects, different type of posts on my personal page and on the Dreams and Drive page. I'm really artsy at heart. I'm really creative. I love stories, and I think we can find stories anywhere we go, which is why I asked all the cast members to reflect on the life lessons and the story themes that they're pulling out of the show for themselves. So as a recap, let's just go through everything. And I hope, this is just a mini inspirational episode for you this week, right? This is coming from Rotimi. Bet on yourself. Put everything into what you believe. Go for it. Don't be afraid of the moment, but remember, you have to temper those insecurities if you want to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. This is coming from Lela Loren and Omari Hardwick. Forgiveness is key. Life is chaos, but you have to be kind. And then lastly, from Naughton, choose you. Take time for yourself. And this show isn't even real. None of these characters are real, but the lessons and the life perspectives are real, right? Inspiration is everywhere. You can find lessons everywhere, but you have to be willing to receive it. So after the interview was up, what happened? I went back into the little dining room, packed up my stuff, went back to New Jersey, and I'm just really happy that these type of opportunities are being offered to me, and I'm looking forward to more of them coming. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Give me feedback. Let me know if you have any suggestions or other mini topics that you want to hear from me. We're all trying to find ourselves, right? I feel like every day is a quest of us finding ourselves more and more. I don't think we ever stop questioning, who am I? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And we're constantly reinventing ourselves. So if you feel stuck, if you feel like, I don't necessarily know what the next steps are, just find a way to get in a quiet zone and really think about it. Like I said, this thing that I'm being forced out of, maybe it's the best thing that ever happened to me. That's what Kristen told me when I told her about the situation. She said, maybe this is the best thing that ever happened to you, Raina, and maybe it will be. And I'm really excited to keep y'all updated and tell you more about it as things progress. But as a Jamaican would say, big things are going, good things are coming, blessings are coming for each of us. We just have to believe it, and we have to see it, and we have to drive towards it. Even if we don't know how we'll get there, we will. All right, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you share it with somebody. I hope that it inspired at least one of you guys in some way. Remember, we are Dreams and Drive across the board on social, and you can use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. If you have not already listened to episode 158 with Jessica Spaulding of Harlem Chocolate Factory, and she talks about creating a bulletproof plan, that is such a great episode. Please, 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 please go back and listen to that. I'm going to extend that giveaway. So we're actually giving away a dark chocolate quinoa and smoked sea salt bark. I'm going to extend that for another week, just in case any listeners who are listening in this week want to enter. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, before you press pause or stop, whatever, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that every time we have a new episode, you are notified. And if you're an Apple Podcast, I would really appreciate it if you leave a rating and review. Let me know what you think about this episode. Let me know what you think about the show. Your ratings and reviews also help others who may be looking for quality podcasts on the platform. I want to read a quick review that Momo Rich left on June 20th, and it says, "Love it. I love this podcast. I love all the helpful, inspiring information. Thank you. I hope that you continue to listen. If you're not part of our Dreams and Drive Facebook group, please come join us. You can just search Dream Driver Mastermind the next time you're logged on, or go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook. And lastly, if you don't receive our online newsletter, The Keys, every week, you can sign up at dreamsanddrive.com/join, dreamsanddrive.com/join. All merchandise on our shop, dreamsanddrive.com/shop, is on sale, and our email templates. So go on, support the movement, support a sister, and get something. I would really, really appreciate it. All right, guys, so that's it. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 160. That episode is going to be with the founder of African Ancestry. That's Miss Gina Page. Bye, guys.